Hey everyone, Janie here. Welcome back to my garden and welcome to my Show Me Your Gardens playlist, where I asked all of you to send me in photos and videos of your gardens and asked you what zone you garden in. My goal for this series was to have inspiration for those of us in each USDA zone so we can look at gardens in our same zone and get inspiration to see what other gardeners are planting, what's working really well for them, and what they've kind of given up on growing in their zone. I've said this a couple times now, but I am getting so much inspiration, not just from my zone, which is zone 9, but everyone's zone, just kind of getting ideas to see what they've done in their garden, different color combinations, different structures, and then honestly, just different gardening advice. It's really been inspirational. So today is the last video. It is zone 10. So I have videos from zone 3 all the way up to zone 10. And I actually have a zone 11 in this video. I found a zone 11 in this video, which is great. So I just threw it into my zone 10 video. So zone 10 is very hot. It's usually very tropical. And it's a different beast, honestly. That's kind of what I've learned from those of you who garden in zone 10 is that not only is it warmer than the rest of the country, obviously, because you're a higher zone, but also you kind of have a different time frame for gardening than a lot of us do. So I learned a lot from, watching these videos that you all submitted, and then also reading all your advice that you submitted in the questionnaire that I sent out. Whenever anybody submitted a photo or videos, there's a little questionnaire where they could tell me what plants thrived in their garden, what plants struggled in their garden, challenges, and then a little bit of advice. So it's been really interesting to hear about zone 10, about what challenges there are and how different it is just compared to zone 9B, right? Like I'm zone 9B. I am very close to zone 10, but it's really interesting. So let's start off with Emily. Emily lives down in Los Angeles. She lives in zone 10B, which is sunset zone 22 through 24. Emily does have an Instagram account called I Am Emily Williams. It's really great. I love watching and seeing what she plants, and her video, Emily, you knocked it out of the park.
Hi, my name is Emily, and I'm a beginner gardener in Southern California, Zone 10B, or Sunset Zones 22 to 24. My backyard garden is all about flowers, fragrance, and foliage. In this video, I'm sharing 2 spaces from my backyard garden, the Kintsugi Garden Lounge and the Tropical Garden Bed. Kintsugi is a Japanese art form about creating something beautiful from the broken pieces of the original, which is fitting for this garden lounge. The floor of the Kintsugi Garden Lounge is made up of broken concrete pieces I installed myself, piece by piece, and filled the large cracks with succulent cuttings. Obviously, the angel's trumpets are the showstopper, fitting my concept of flowers, fragrance, and foliage. Purple Mexican sage give a contrasting understory. The tropical bed sits almost in the middle of my backyard. At first glance, your eye travels up the trunks to the tops of the giant birds of paradise, and although the giant birds of paradise are a bit messy, I love the big, lush green leaves. I skinned the tree trunks to expose the rich, dark, reddish brown color, which almost looks like a type of bamboo. The beds have a variety of flowers and foliage, and the star jasmine and plumeria offer a lovely fragrance in the breeze. So because winters in zone 10B are mild, averaging low temperatures between 35 and 40 degrees, means my garden has interest almost all year round. So thanks for watching. Let's keep in touch. Follow me on Instagram at I Am Emily Williams.
Who else is jealous of Emily Williams and her garden and her climate? Emily, it's beautiful. Your garden is beautiful. And you, my dear, are not a beginner gardener. You are an advanced gardener. You're doing such a good job with your garden. Your tropical garden is gorgeous, and then your kutsugui, I don't think I said that right. Kutsugui garden is incredible. I've seen people try and attempt that before, and you really knocked it out of the park. You did a great job with yours. You made something really beautiful with something that is broken. So one thing I did want to say, Emily's advice for other Zone 10 gardeners is for all gardeners, really, she says, try growing whatever interests you, experiment and see what happens. Plant tags and seed packets are just a starting point. They're not necessarily the final word. And I think that that's really good advice. Find microclimates in your garden space and keep a journal with pictures so that you can learn your own garden. Or my advice is take videos on your phone so that you always have them on your phone. You always have video of it, and you can go back and you can see what really worked and what really didn't work. She says, again, due to the mild climate in Zone 10B, she encourages other 10B gardeners to try the cool flower method and grow from seed. She says it's so satisfying. So if you're not familiar with the cool flower method, I have a lot of videos on it, but basically it's fall sowing certain seeds, flower seeds, that will kind of be dormant, but the roots will be growing as the winter goes on. And then once spring hits, they're ready to go because of their developed root system. And then they just pop up and they make the most beautiful, hardy, biggest flowers with the best blooms. And so Emily says that it really works for her in her Zone 10B garden, which I can definitely see. Works really, really well for us in Zone 9B, and I bet it's even better for her. So Emily, I'm just a little jealous of you. Your garden is beautiful. I'm just kidding. But I really, really do love your garden, and I love what you've done with it. I love it. So I will link her Instagram down below. It's I am Emily Williams, and I encourage you all to follow her. Next garden I have to show you for Zone 10 is Barbie's garden. Barbie gardens in Miami, Florida, and she has an Instagram account called Plantas y Raíces, which I translated, and it's called, the translation came up with plants and roots, which I think is really, really cute. So Barbie's garden, she sent in a beautiful video that I loved, but her piece of advice that she would give to other gardeners that garden in the same climate that she has in Miami is understand the different planting season versus the rest of the country. This is where I was really, really interested to learn this. She says, learn from others that garden in Florida. Be flexible in your garden space. Allow for use of shade cover when temperatures run high, and catch pests early. So like I was saying, what I've learned from seeing all these gardeners in Zone 10 is that it's just kind of a little bit different than the rest of the country. You kind of have your own schedule that you have to follow based on your lack of season, your mild temperatures. You know, it's just, it's interesting. I will let Barbie explain it in her video.
Good morning. My name is Barbie from Plantas y Raíces, and this is my vegetable garden. On the side of my house a year ago, I decided to create a vegetable garden, and this is where I house my edibles, some of my orchids, philodendrons, things like that. So over here is kind of like my tropical jungle. I have everything from lemongrass to philodendrons. I have a vanilla orchid. I have all sorts of tropical plants. Tropical plants do really good here. They grow really big. They love the humidity. Some of my vegetables are here. I have some onions and strawberries, rosemary. I have my composter and my shed where I keep a lot of my potting stuff back there. And as I pan back here, you'll see what's vining is a loofah gourd. It's my first time trying that, so we'll see. Everything is an experiment here. But basically I have 6 Vigo garden beds, which I love. I started with this one circle one in the corner over here in October of last year, and quickly Mother's Day, my birthday, Christmas, you know, every holiday I can think of, I got a new bed. So in Florida, I'm actually located out of Zone 10B in Florida. And in Florida, we start gardening now in the fall. That's when our season starts. So now is when I'm trying things like peppers and brassicas and things like that. So this bed here is my tomato bed, mostly tomatoes. It's 6 tomato plants. I think actually 8, sorry. 3 of them I grew from starts and the rest from seeds. So I'm pretty proud of myself. Got a little eggplant over here. And then on this big bed here, I have a Seminole pumpkin, which I didn't realize would get quite so big. So I kind of made this whole trellis system for it. But I do have one little pumpkin growing. They say it tastes like butternut squash, so I don't know, we'll see. And I actually have 2 little baby pumpkins that just showed up. I'll show you on the other side. Here I have a lot of my brassicas, so things like broccoli and cauliflower, and I think I have some rainbow chard. I have a lot of these cloches set up because I do have a lot of iguanas, unfortunately, that like to munch on some of my stuff. This garlic chive actually has been there since last year, and it's very happy. Over here I have a few more tomatoes. This is like an old pool pump that I use as my seedling table. Here I'm testing out some peppers with more shade, because we do get very hot here in Florida. Lots of humidity. These have been such a fun thing to grow. They're roselle hibiscus, how you make hibiscus tea. And you can make a jam. So you actually just take those calyxes and you can freeze dry them or dehydrate them. It's cool. So let me just go through here. And this is actually one of my prides. It's a cranberry hibiscus plant. So I grew it from very little, and it's grown really tall. And it gives out this really beautiful flowers that kind of look like velvet to me every morning. And then by the afternoon, they fall. So it's a special treat for someone that comes out early. This is like probably my biggest orchid. I got it at an orchid show like maybe 2 years ago, and she's doing really good. I got to grow things like papaya, bananas. This is a very old avocado tree, which gives us quite a bit of fruit. And then back here is where I have my future greenhouse that I'm going to put so I could do some potting and protect some of my seedlings. I have moved some of my orchids to this side of the garden because they get more shade here, but got this really pretty bloom that just came in a couple weeks ago, and this one looks like it's going to shoot one right there too. Yeah, some things grow super wild, like, this is where my herbs are, and I have this huge Cuban oregano. Some things, whatever loves the humidity loves it here. So yeah, that's pretty much a tour of my backyard. I'm really loving vegetable gardening. It's been a whole new challenge. And I enjoy having the fruits of my labor. The one last thing that I'm really having a great time with is my bird feeder over here in the corner. In the mornings, I have cardinals and squirrels and all sorts of wildlife coming out and visiting the garden. So that's been a really fun treat. So yeah, thanks for stopping by.
Thank you, Barbie, so much for sharing and for explaining to all of us who are unaware of plant timing for those of you in really hot areas like Miami, Florida, versus the rest of the country. You know, it's kind of, it makes sense as things start to cool down. I'm sure Phoenix, like the Arizona area, is kind of the same way, but it's just so interesting to me how you just kind of, you just need to adjust it a little bit to make it work. But fall for you is, it seems like the perfect time to plant a lot of those things. So just super interesting. I was just, you know, watching your video like, wow, she's grown that. Wow, look at that orchid. You know, it was just, it was really, really neat to see. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. I will link Barbie's Instagram down below, Plantas y Raíces, and follow her if you live in the same climate or just want some really great garden inspiration. All right, while we're in Miami, I just want to show off Charlotte's garden. Charlotte lives in zone 10B/11A, so kind of on the border. She's in Miami, Florida as well. She says the plants that thrive in her garden, she has a small balcony garden. She says it's in full shade year round, and at most she gets 3 hours of afternoon sun on the north end of her balcony, only in the summer. But even with that limitation, she's still able to grow tons of tropical plants that many people grow as houseplants outside. She says she has lots of success growing Hoyas, and many of hers have bloomed for me in her conditions, which is crazy to have Hoyas bloom. That's so cool. She has many happy ficus, philodendrons, monstera, epineriums, which is pothos, and that she keeps outside year round, which is amazing. So her advice, she says, if you have a very shady balcony garden in zone 11, things may grow better than you suspect. We have a lovely, bright, indirect light year round, and a shady balcony may create the perfect microclimate for tropical plants. So I just had to show off her garden because she has made the most out of this tiny balcony that you can see is not getting a lot of sun, but if you look close, it's in shade, but if you look close, there's enough bright indirect light that you can see shadows on her pots and shadows on the floor, and that is enough for a lot of these tropical plants. So, you know, instead of just, wiping your hands, washing your hands of it and saying, well, I can't garden, I only have a balcony that's in full shade, just figure out what works in your balcony garden, and you can see what Charlotte has done with hers. And she's done such a beautiful job. You can see her showing off, I think this is a philodendron, but don't quote me on that. But look at how happy these plants are. And they're what I would consider a house plants. They're absolutely beautiful. She's got this fiddly fig that I cannot keep a fiddly fig alive, but she's doing a great job. And then here's one quick video that's showing everything kind of as it's blowing in the wind. It's really, really neat. Charlotte, beautiful. Honestly, beautiful. I love your balcony garden. You must enjoy sitting out there so much. And thank you so much for sharing it with us. All right, so Charlotte gardens in zone 10/11A, so kind of on the border of zone 11, but I want to take you all to the Gold Coast of Australia to Meg and her cute little dog. She's got 4 cute little dogs, and she gardens, I looked it up, and her garden is equivalent to USDA zone 11, but I had to show it to all of you. I know this is a zone 10 video, but I had to show you her garden because it is beautiful and it is so interesting to see other plants that she has in her garden, and her dogs are just the cutest things. So let's watch.
Hi guys, I'm Meg and I garden on the Gold Coast in Queensland, Australia. I don't do it alone though. I have the help of 4 adorable rescue dogs who you'll see soon. We have a YouTube channel, it's called the Pawsome Rescues, and we create relaxing dog TV and dog music specifically for dogs when they're home alone. Our garden is 4 years old and our climate is kind of similar to yours, Janie. Winter's pretty much non-existent and our summers are really hot. This is our front garden and it's full of plants that seem to really thrive here. Starting with Xanadus, they are the green leafy plants shown behind the rocks. They grow really well, but I have found that they need a bit of shade or they can turn yellow. Lily pillies do well. You can see them here in lollipop form. Also rosemary. I've attempted to create a wild hedge to visually separate our garden from our neighbours. Magnolia. I love this plant and it really thrives in our climate. The one you can see here is a magnolia teddy bear and it grows really quickly. It was about half this size when we planted it about 4 years ago. The legends that are super petunias thankfully do well here. I've cut them back about 3 times now and they just keep giving us blooms. Dusty Miller thrives here. I now use it in between large rocks because prior to installing these rocks, I couldn't get anything to grow in this area. When it rained, the space would become really soggy and the plants would rot. Dichondria silverfalls love their lives here, as do the cousin it plants. But I'm indecisive as to whether Tibetan-no-mo grass does well here. Sometimes it's green and lush, but it tends to develop brown patches. So I'm 50-50 with this plant. And more super petunias because, well, I'm obsessed. This is our dog sensory garden. It's located down the side of our house. We sprinkle herbs like mint, basil, parsley, rosemary, lemongrass, anything with an interesting smell. We sprinkle it around the garden. Then we throw dried liver treats amongst it. We call it a dog treat hunt and we encourage our pups to explore and sniff out the goodies. It's a great brain stimulation activity for them. You can see we've used plants like rosemary, which I've trimmed up. We have a lily pilly in there, conifers, and also pet grass, which they love chewing on. We try to use plants with different textures. The plants I wish I could grow but can't, Japanese maples. Oh, I love these trees so much, but I just think that they would fry here. And hydrangeas. I just don't have enough shade garden. I think they too would fry. Now let's head to the back. To give us privacy from our neighbours, we planted a row of lily pillies. Oh, there's our youngest. His name is Charlie Frank. He's almost 3. Isn't he adorable? And this is Lady Lily Grace. She's 9 and she's deaf, but she does not let that stop her. Here we have another super petunia, a xanadu, some conifers, rosemary, and a very challenged lemon tree. As you can tell, I repeat a lot of the same plant. I like the way repetition looks in a garden and it keeps my plant death rate down. We look out onto a conservation area. It's a kangaroo, koala and bird sanctuary and it's cared for by our local council. So we have a lovely view that we don't have to maintain ourselves, so we're really lucky. The biggest challenges in our garden. Well, we have 2. The first one is our youngest pup, Charlie Frank. He is definitely the biggest challenge in the garden. He loves to have a bark off with the dogs who walk past the back of our property, which is totally fine, except he wants to get really close to them. And up until a few months ago, his favorite thing to do was a run, jump, and belly flop onto the Xanadu plants, as they obviously provide a soft landing. This is why you see chicken wire in front of and behind our Xanadu plants. They're supposed to deter him from doing this, and so far so good. Our second challenge is snakes, but they're not really so bad. We just follow what the experts suggest to avoid encounters with them. Advice. Well, I still have so much to learn, so all I can really say is continue to watch YouTube videos. The knowledge shared by Janie as well as Robbie at Visit Our Garden, Linda Varda, and Laura and Aaron from Garden Answer. It is fantastic.
Charlie, you naughty dog. I was just cracking up, belly flopping onto the philodendrons. It was just, that is too funny. So I see what you mean by that being one of your biggest challenges, Meg, but it's such a cute challenge to deal with. So I loved your garden. Those lily pillies, I have not heard of them. I looked it up and they're part of the myrtle family and you can grow them, but they grow in zones 10 and 11. So those of you in zone 10, look up lily pilly trees because they look really interesting and I really like how you've put them in lollipop form. So your garden is so beautiful. Again, I'm so much inspiration, even though you're a little bit hotter than we are here, at least where I am in zone 9B, but putting your Dusty Miller in between the rocks and having that beautiful magnolia and that hedge of rosemary, Meg, you did a beautiful job and I really appreciate you sharing it with us. And I love your pups. They're just the cutest little things and I love the side of your house with your little signs. They're really, really cute. So thank you for sharing with us. And it was very inspirational. Next zone 10 garden is Ria's garden. Ria gardens in zone 10A in San Mateo, California. And San Mateo is a little bit south from San Francisco, like half an hour south, I would say. So Rhea, she says the plants that thrive in her garden are yarrow, verbena, dianthus, daisy, purple fountain grass, supertunia, salvia, geranium, Jerusalem sage, plumbago, Nyphophia, Gara, black-eyed Susan vine, Mediterranean spruce, and lion's tail. So pretty similar to me over here in Zone 9B. San Mateo's pretty close to us. I would say it's probably like an hour and a half away from us with no traffic, and there's never no traffic. So just there's that. So the plants that she wishes she could plant but just don't work in her garden are blue hydrangeas, and she personally struggles with milkweed and daylily. She says the biggest challenge in her Zone 10 garden, she says she started gardening in 2021, and she says that my channel was the best resource she found for a zone closest to mine. Thank you. That's very sweet. She started her garden from scratch. I have a picture I'll show you in a second. She says that her biggest challenge is her west-facing garden. She says it receives intense heat throughout the day with a lot of wind, and plants struggle a lot during the summer and have a tendency to flop over because of the wind. So yeah, I could see that. San Mateo can get pretty hot. She says if she could give one piece of advice, it would be to blend in drought-tolerant plants and California natives in your garden to cope with the water restrictions that we sometimes get, but achieve much of the desirable, vibrant colors and attract pollinators to your garden. So let me show you the before and after of Rhea's garden. You can see in 2021, there really wasn't anything. And then look at the beautiful garden down below. It's so gorgeous. Rhea, you have done such a beautiful, beautiful job with your garden. The picture that I just could not believe was this one right here. Oh my goodness, what a beautiful picture. That is a frameable picture for sure. So it looks like there's mandarins in the background, and then this looks like a black-eyed Susan, like an orange black-eyed Susan. And just that mix with this bright fuchsia, I think it's a coneflower. I'm not totally sure what it is, but it's beautiful. What a beautiful, beautiful photo is right there. Here's a little closer look at the Thunbergia growing on her fence, which is beautiful behind that fountain. And then here you can see the mix of plants that she has in her garden, the mix of colors that she has, and you've just done a lovely, lovely job. And I totally get the hot, dry winds. They're really, really tough here, but you've really done a good job with your garden. It's very inspirational. So Rhea, thank you so much for sharing. We appreciate it so much. All right, the very last garden I have to show you for Zone 10, and really this series of Show Me Your Gardens, is Sharon's garden. Sharon gardens in Poway, California, which is Zone 10B. And I would say Sharon is the master of microclimates. You'll see in her video in a little bit how important it is to find the microclimates that you have in your garden. Sharon does have a YouTube channel called Ponderosa Garden Adventures that I will link down below. So let's watch Sharon's video now.
Hi, this is Sharon from Ponderosa Garden Adventures, and I'm here in my front yard this morning to share with you my Zone 10B Southern California garden. We actually have a smaller front yard, and then we have a very large backyard garden that we also garden in. I thought I'd start here and talk a little bit about Zone 10B and microclimates. So I'm here in our front entrance here, and we definitely have microclimates here because I have very little shade. And this is an east-facing garden and gets hot, direct sun all day long. So I planted this peach tree a few years ago. I wanted to keep the sun off our front window. I was looking for something to help with the heat that comes directly from the sun hitting this patch of front yard all day from early morning till late afternoon, and beautiful blooms in the spring and fantastic juicy peaches. This is a desert gold. I highly recommend it. As a bonus, I got this microclimate, and so underneath I have planted hydrangeas in pots. in case it didn't work and I needed to move them. I've only ever been able to grow them here on my patio, under the cover of that patio and protection. Otherwise, they just get scorched. It doesn't matter how much water I give them, or it just hasn't worked in my landscape. So my first advice would be to know your microclimates, recognize them, look for them, and don't be afraid to try things that you love, that you think you can't grow. Give it a try. Put it in a pot and move it around if you need to until you find that perfect spot for it. I also lean heavily on native plants and drought tolerant plants, because I know we're basically a desert here, and the summer is quite intense, but the winter brings freezing. So I have things like the rosemary here, and the Russian sage, and perennials, and fruit trees like the lemons that can handle the heat and the cold. I try to mulch, which we are in the midst of cleanup and mulching here for the season, and using native plants. I've created this potager, and so I put my heat-loving veggies on the far side there, and I can have things like thyme in the shade here. And I think knowing your microclimates and where those are, whether those are in place currently or you plan for those, is key. We also get lots of wildlife here. You can see, as I'm talking, maybe we can see him in here. We get lots of birds. There you are. We get lots of wildlife in our garden. So I know that I'm successful in my garden design if we are getting the birds and the pollinators and the worms.
Sharon, thank you so much for sharing your garden with us. And I think that you are absolutely right, figuring out where to plant something in such a hot garden. So Poway, California is just north of San Diego. So it's a pretty hot area. But Sharon, you're doing a great job. So again, I will link Sharon's YouTube channel down below. It is called Ponderosa Garden Adventures. So everyone, I hope you enjoyed this Zone 10 video. I hope it was inspirational for you. And I hope you enjoyed this whole series. I had the best time making it, and I think I've thanked you all a million times, but I'm just going to thank you again. I really appreciate all of you taking the time to film the videos, take the pictures, find them on your phone or your computer, and send them in. It was so helpful, especially for me when I'm down and out and can't do much in my garden right now. This was so inspiring to see all these gardens. So thank you. I will link all these videos in the playlist down below. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you all have a chance to get in your garden today.